For today's practice, you might like pillow, bolster, blanket, things like that. Chair and or a couple blocks might come in handy as well. So let yourself start your practice resting in a way that feels good for you right now on your back. You might choose to have a pillow under your head. You might have your legs stretched out, maybe a bit of a pillow or bolster under the legs. Or you can choose to keep your knees bent and have your feet flat on the floor. So do what feels best in your lower back, in your hips, in your neck, and in your shoulders. Just checking in with those areas and trying to land your back body into the floor as comfortably as you can. Feel your arms rest in a way that helps to relax your shoulders, settling them away from the ears and down towards the ground. Letting the whole length and weight of your arms rest and relax all the way out and down into the hands and fingers. So notice if you're holding on to any tension there. And little by little, feel more joints in your body relax. And start to feel the areas of your back body, the width of your upper back, your shoulders, and the very base of your spine, your sacrum, the back of your pelvis. Letting those areas widen and rest further into the support of the ground. So settling your awareness here today with your body as you give yourself a chance to rest. Noticing any areas that feel still a little held or tight, areas that may not want to relax so easily. And little by little, inviting more softness in. Making adjustments as you come across any areas of discomfort. Yeah, and you might choose to close your eyes or just allow the gaze to soften. What lets you start to let go of any distractions in your mind or in the room, the space around you, so that you can start to tune in and notice how your breath moves through your body. It's not often we give ourselves the chance to just pay attention to the breath and to give our breath a chance to slow down and deepen. So feel some more softness come down into your belly, letting go of any sense of holding there. The more relaxed your belly is, the more you might sense the breath moving your belly with each inhale and with each exhale. So how does your belly move as you breathe in? And feel how your belly moves as you breathe out. And can you allow this movement to happen without any force or strain, as little effort as possible? And as you notice that gentle rise and fall of your belly, expanding slightly as you inhale, and settling and softening again as you exhale. You might also start to sense the movements of your breath into your ribs, your lungs, your chest. feeling a gentle sense of expansion into the ribs and chest as well. Breathing in. And with each exhale, feel how the ribs narrow, how the backs of the ribs maybe get a little heavier, making more contact with the ground as you release all the breath. And as you continue to feel and sense your breath moving through your body here, you can feel free to rest your hands if you find that helpful, as you get a little more feedback with your hands resting on either your ribs or your belly. You could even have one hand resting on your belly and another on your chest. So find the position that feels most comfortable for you. Feeling free to have the hands resting so that you can sense perhaps a little easier the motions of the breath through your hands. And these movements can be quite subtle, so however much or however little movement you feel, just try to pay attention to it with each inhale and with each exhale. Letting the breath become a little smoother and slower. Rising and falling like gentle waves moving through your body in no rush. You might start to feel the little spaces between each breath. So that brief pause at the very end of your exhale, following the breath till it fades away into a brief stillness. And then the next breath flows in, expands a little more into your hands. And can you notice when you're at the very top of your inhale, then feel where it turns to become the exhale. And all the while, continue to feel the rest of your body, making contact with the floor, softening through the joints, as you follow a few more steadier, smoother cycles of breath here within. And then let's little by little start to feel the inhales deepen through the nose. And then start to sigh out the exhale through the mouth if you like, making any sound you like. Releasing through the jaw, the throat, and then letting the eyes open when you're ready for that. And then start to find a little bit of gentle movement, just reawakening the body a little more here. So maybe a little rocking of the head side to side, rolling from behind one ear to behind the other. And getting some movement going into your feet and ankles. And then feel free to find as much of a stretch as feels good. So you can just move the arms to stretch back, or if you like, you can stretch both legs long, or keep the knees bent if that feels better. Letting out again any sighs or yawns as they come. All right. And then let's bend the knees again. And we can hug the knees in. So feel free to do this one knee at a time. And just as a bit of a check-in in your lower back and in each hip. And if both knees together coming in feels good, try that out. Hugging the knees in, you're welcome to, of course, have your knees as wide apart as you need. And find a gentle rock as you're here. So maybe just a little shift over to one side and a shift to the other side. And enjoying a bit of a massage into your lower back. Okay, and then let's keep the right knee in and we'll take the left leg to the floor. And you can either have the left knee bent with the left foot on the ground or straighten that left leg along the floor. So find what's feeling best for you in your lower back and in your hips. And then let's just find a little bit of movement with each breath here. So as you breathe in, can you let the belly expand, breath moving in and down, and that might move your right knee forward a little more. And then as you exhale, hugging up and in gently through the belly, letting go of all the breath, maybe the knee can come in a bit closer. So you're just sort of easing away, breathing in, and then bringing the knee a little closer as you exhale, letting go of all the breath. Trying to do this movement with as little tension in the shoulders as possible. So noticing that for yourself. Okay, and then let's hold on to the knee, maybe just with the right hand, or you could let go of it completely. It's up to you. And just start to circle into that hip. So imagine you're drawing this circle with your knee, loosening into that hip joint, and this can be quite slow. This could be at any tempo, really, that feels comfortable for you, where you can kind of track your movements, right? Feel the hip loosening up, finding its own comfortable range of motion, whether these are small or large circles or anything in between. And then find those circles the other way as well. So this direction could need something a little different. If you notice lots of clicks and catches happening in your knee, sometimes creating a little bit of tension as you move through the circle can help. So imagine you're moving against a bit of resistance and sort of tension around the hip as you circle. You can try that out. Okay. And then let's just hug the knee once again in and maybe take hold behind that thigh so that we can just go ahead and stretch and bend a few times through this right leg. So getting a sense of some stretch through the back of the leg. We can push up through the heel as we lengthen and point the toes as you bend. And you're looking to find your own comfortable range. You don't have to go to a fully straight knee. Okay. And then maybe you hold that length through the back of the leg for a couple of breaths, stretching up through the heel. And of course, you're welcome to keep that left foot on the floor or straighten the leg along the ground for one last breath here. Really nice. All right, and then let's bend the knee. Take your time to just rest comfortably in the center again. You might bring both feet back to the floor. And find another breath or two here. Down into your belly, letting it move. Expanding on the inhale. And then feeling how your belly softens and settles again with your exhale. All right, let's bring the left knee in. So your choice, whether you're straightening that right leg along the ground, sometimes that can feel a little too uncomfortable for whatever reason in the lower back, right? So it's usually from tightness in that front right hip. So feel free to keep the right foot on the floor if that feels better. And then just let a little movement come into the left hip, easing away on the inhale, letting the belly expand as your lungs fill, and then feeling the knee come in maybe a little closer as you exhale. Slowing down the breath, feeling that full depth breathing in, and the slow exhale, letting it all go. Notice if tension comes into your shoulders and neck. See if you can keep things nice and easy through that upper body. Yeah, and then let's start to find the circular movement through this hip. So feel free to guide that circle with your left hand. That's it. One hip often moves a little easier than the other. So notice how this side feels for you. And see if you can minimize the movement of your pelvis. So trying not to shift or rock your weight too much across the back of your pelvis with this movement. And really honing in to the hip socket a little more. You got it. And then we can find the movement the other way. All the while, stay with each breath. Feel the inhale and feel the exhale. What size of movement feels good to move through this hip? All right, and then let's hold on behind the left thigh. So again, it does not have to be super close. You just hold on where you can. You can also use a belt or a scarf to hold the back of that thigh. You just wrap it around the back of the thigh and hold on to it. And then let's stretch and bend. Stretch through the back of this leg, up through the heel. How does this leg stretch? And then point the toes as you let it bend again. I like to move with the breath. Feel the inhale for one movement, feel the exhale for the other. Nice and slow as you go exploring. Yeah, and then you can keep as much of that length as feels comfortable to hold through this leg. Maybe you're keeping the right foot on the floor or stretching that right leg along the ground. Feel where you are for one more breath. That's it. All right, let's bring both feet back to the ground and just reposition if you need to on the back of the pelvis. Feel nice and comfortable through the low back and take a pause, sensing some change already, into the hips, into the legs. Okay. So let's go ahead and walk the feet a little wider apart, and we can take the arms either out like a T shape at shoulder level, or you could bring them back to more like a V shape from your shoulders, kind of stretching towards the back corners of your mat. Now this one, you might feel a little more space coming into, side ribs, chest, armpits. So you decide on the height that feels most comfortable for those areas in your body. Now, with the feet staying nice and wide on the mat, start with a few little tick-tocks in the knees. So let the knees go together over towards one side and then over to the other. That's it. And then, as your hips and lower back starts to warm up, maybe you can let the movement become a little bigger, letting your knees fall as far to each side as they want to go. And so you're finding a little more movement now through your hips. And now we're letting our pelvis rock with this movement. More weight tips towards one hip as the knees go over in that direction. Yeah, and then start to let the head go in the opposite direction. So can you coordinate that? And you're finding your own pace with this, your own range. If you want to stay with that smaller tick-tock, if that's feeling better today, feel free to. And then let's hold with our knees to the left. So as our left knee falls out and down, it may or may not get all the way to the floor. And if it doesn't get all the way to the floor, you can bring a little pillow underneath it for it to have something to rest into. That's it. And then the right knee, the inner knee is moving more towards the ground, right? So let's feel the right knee sort of reaching across and down, kind of on a diagonal towards that, top left corner of your mat, say. And then the right arm could stretch back to the back right corner, letting the head continue to rest a little to the right as you sense some breath coming into this right side. Let's feel that for a couple breaths here. You might feel some stretch sensation anywhere along that right side, the front thigh, up into the front hip, waist area, ribs. Where do you sense it? Okay, and then let's bring the head back to center, knees back to center. Take a moment and relax through the arms still. Keep the feet wide. And when you're ready, bring the knees over to the right. And again, if that right knee doesn't want to fall all the way to the floor, it can be a little more comfortable to have a pillow, rolled up blanket, block, whatever you have close by underneath that thigh, resting it into something so that it can relax a little more. All right, so how does it feel through this left side? Feel the length from the knee, left knee, back through the left arm. So kind of feeling those two limbs stretching in opposite directions on a diagonal. And our left hip is probably up a little bit, right? But can we still kind of feel like our left ribs are resting towards the ground? Left ear settling towards the floor. And where does the breath move as you're here? That's it. Follow another cycle or two. And then when you're ready, bring your head back to center, bring your knees to center. Whew. Release the arms down. Okay, let's hug the knees in again. Find a gentle rock. Okay, and then we're going to come on over onto our left side. So we'll keep our knees bent, rest on the left side. This is where a couple pillows might come in handy. So the one pillow you could have under your head as we're on our side. The other pillow, when we come into the twist, if you're quite tight in the back today or for whatever reason it's not feeling great in the twist, you can have another pillow underneath your thighs eventually. Okay, so I'll show you that option. So let's start on our left side. We've got our shoulders stacked, our knees stacked, somewhere around hip height, could be a little lower. Hips are stacked. I'm just getting comfortable there. And then let's basically try to keep our knees and hips stacked while we send the right arm up towards the ceiling. And then as you keep it going, behind you, let your upper body go with you. So you're rolling across your upper back, bringing that right shoulder just as close to the floor as you can go, and then taking it back and over onto your left side. So explore that, coming in and out of the twist a couple more times like this, because usually the first one feels quite tight, right? So we're giving our body a chance to just loosen up with some of these gentle movements. And if you want to get into this top shoulder a little more, we can start to find more of a circular movement with this arm, sending it back and then opening it out to the right as you circle down towards the hip to roll again onto your side. So even as you find this circular movement through the arm, you're still coming into the twist and then coming out of it again. That's it. So you choose which movement feels best for you and find it maybe 1 or 2 more times. Okay, and then when you feel ready to land into your twist, let's go to the right with our upper body. Keep the knees to the left. And so you might need to shift where you've landed. You might need to shift your shoulders more to the left, and that might land the right shoulder closer to the floor. But if you notice, that shoulder is still quite a ways from the ground. The easiest thing to do is to bring a pillow under your knees, and that will reduce the twist a little bit through your back, and you'll find more support across your upper back. You'll be able to relax that shoulder a little more. So feel and settle into the twist on this side. Feeling free to rest your left hand on that top thigh, where you can reach across and massage a little bit if you can reach that outer hip or outer thigh. Yeah, there are definitely lots of tight spots around the outer hip. Many muscles attach into our hip socket where it's quite close to the surface. So you'll find some tender spots there. And gently running the fingers along the outer thigh from the hip to the knee. Can also be nice along that IT band. So with each exhale, can you feel the right side resting a little closer to the floor as the knees rest and relax to the left? Where does the breath move as you're here? Can you stay calm and steady with each breath moving through you? And feel free to stay exactly as you are for the last few breaths, or if you're wanting more stretch through your top leg, you can find that length again through the right knee, out through the calf, and maybe a few circles into that foot, ankle. And wherever you are, sense another full breath or two. And then when you're ready, bend the knee again, and you can either come straight onto your back from there, or first roll onto your side and then onto your back. So whatever makes sense to you and feels most comfortable. And usually just coming out of that, we notice, things were a little stiff. So take a moment and get comfortable in the center and feel the change in your right side compared to the left. Okay, let's take it over to the other side. So come on over onto your right side with your knees bent. And yeah, it can just take a bit of time to set up and get comfortable. Try to stack your hips and your shoulders, resting the right side of the head into the support. And then let's start by just lifting the left arm up, trying to keep the hips stacked more or less as we rotate the upper body to the left. How far do you go in this direction? I'm a little tighter. And we'll come back over onto the right side again. So explore that, maybe 1 or 2 more like that. Taking your time and feeling your head roll with your upper back. You got some rumblings of thunder outside. We might be getting a storm. So when you feel ready, if you want to explore the circle around your body with that left arm, go for it. Circling back, opening to the left, circling down to the hip, to once again roll onto that right side to start the circle again. Yeah, you can also, of course, circle the other way. And then once you feel ready to land into your twist in this direction, let's find it. Turning the upper back to the left, and again, feeling free to bring a pillow under your knees to reduce the twist in your back. So you might feel it as a lot of tightness and tension in your back. Left shoulder might be quite a ways away from the floor, so that's a nice option. Or if it's more in this top hip, the tension, a pillow between the thighs is a nice way to go. If your top leg, is quite a bit away from the bottom leg, having a pillow between might feel better. So just little ways of making this position more comfortable so your body can actually relax into this shape and start to open up a little more. So let the head rest and relax to the left. Feel free to reach across and massage a little bit into this side, which likely feels a little different than the other side. Maybe the tight spots are in different areas, or you just have less or more of them. Feel where the inhale moves in. And what can you soften and relax a little more as you exhale? And again, feeling free to stay as you are with your knees bent, or if you want to explore a little more stretch through that top leg, go for it. You can lengthen through the heel. You might circle into that ankle a few times with that. Knee can stay as bent as you need to keep it comfortable. Let's follow another breath or two here. All right, and then when you're ready for it, take your time to unwind in any way that makes sense to you to come back onto your back again. Once you're back on your back, if you still have a pillow under your head, I suggest taking it away as much as you comfortably can. And let's bring the feet to the floor. So as we settle the feet on the ground, let's just find a few pelvic tilts with the breath first. Maybe at first, though, let's just rock on the feet. So come up onto your toes, lift the heels, rock back to your heels, lift the toes. When you lift your toes, you could also curl them towards the floor and then let them land again, but as you lift your heels. Yeah, so a little movement through the ankles and toe joints. Landing your heels as much under the knees as your body lets you, about hip distance apart. So let's slide the shoulder blades. So if you kind of lift and slide your shoulder blades down your back a little more, you'll feel that wider base of support across your upper back. You can rest the hands on your belly here, just kind of on either side of your navel. One hand resting on either side, and just sense how the breath moves your belly. Feel that gentle expansion rising into your hands, breathing in. Ooh, there's the crack of thunder. And then as you exhale, feel the belly settle and soften back in. So noticing those movements as we start to then allow for more movement to come into the pelvis. So let's inhale and tip forward so that the lower back arches comfortably away from the ground. Tailbone pushes down more. And then on the exhale, rolling your weight back so the lower back now flattens closer to the floor. So each inhale, can we tip the pelvis down to the tailbone, lower back arching. Each exhale, can we flatten more into the lower back? Feel this rolling point of contact, right? So we're rolling the contact down to the tailbone with the inhale, rolling it back to the back of the waist on the exhale. Each inhale is an opportunity to relax the belly, let it expand as our lungs fill. And then each exhale, we can feel how the belly hugs in and up and helps to flatten down the low back. Woo. Okay, we can relax the arms along our sides as you continue to move your pelvis with the breath, right? And you'll notice this rippling into the rest of your spine. How far up the spine do you sense these motions? We're moving like a wave, traveling through as many of the curves of the spine as you can sense. Okay, and then let's start to move a little more into bridge with each exhale. So as you exhale, press into your feet, curl your tail up, and start to peel the spine up into bridge, your height that feels comfortable. Feel the inhale as you're in bridge, and then let your exhale roll you back down. So coming down from top to bottom. Once your low back lands again, feel your inhale, tip forward, tailbone down, low back arches. And then on the exhale, press into your feet, hug up and in through your belly, and feel how the tail reaches to the knees as you lift your hips. Pause and bridge, let the inhale come. And let your exhale roll you back down through your spine. Nice. Once you're back down, feel the inhale, tip forward to the tail again, low back arches. And then find your exhale, first curling the tail up. Little squeeze in the glutes here too as you press into your feet to lift. Feel the breath in, up in bridge. Find the exhale rolling you back to the floor. So let's do that one more time at your own pace. Follow the rhythm of your breath and feel these movements travel through your spine. And the next time we lift into bridge, let's pause and hold that shape. So you decide how high your bridge is comfortable today to pause into. Feel the active push down through your feet. Feel a little more of that space across your chest and belly as you feel each breath here. Really nice. And then when you're ready, when you've had enough, take your time to roll it on back slowly to the floor again. And then your choice after that. Some people like to bring the knees in, hug and rock, maybe a happy baby position, or going back to those windshield wipers is another good option. All right. Just close the window because the rain is coming down. Okay. We're going to come on over onto our side, whichever side you like, resting there for a couple of breaths before we make our way into table pose. Okay, so when you're coming into table pose, feel free to use extra padding under the knees. You can do table pose using a chair as well. Standing with your hands on the seat of the chair. That's a little less strain on the wrists as well. And if it's more wrist strain that you're noticing, a couple blocks come in really handy, and you can simply bring your forearms on the blocks and have your hands off. I just like a little bit of height. You can, of course, also do this close to the floor, but it's just a lot more bend at the hips, changes the shape of the spine a little bit. So on the blocks is my fave for coming off of the hands. Okay, so whether you've got elbows on the ground or surface under your shoulders or your palms, let's go for some rounded stretch. Cat tilt, curling the tail down, letting the chin move towards the chest as you're kind of feeling like your mid-back pushes towards the ceiling. That's it. And then do the opposite. Let the tail lift as the head and chest open towards the front. So rounding and stretching through your mid-back. You might feel that. And then opening more through the front. So finding those movements again, traveling through the spine like a wave to the rhythm of your own breath. All the while feeling that strong support down through the arms. Pushing into elbows or palms to widen that space between the shoulder blades a little more. Ooh. All right, and then we're going to bring it back to off the hands, off the elbows, back into a child's pose, or you can have a seat on the chair and release over the thighs. So in your child's pose, if the hips don't comfortably get all the way back and down to the heels, that's quite all right. You can have the knees as wide apart as you like. This is also when a couple pillows under or a bolster under your torso can be another great option for child's pose. Sensing a couple breaths moving into your back ribs. Let's feel that. Okay. And then we'll make our way back into table, and we're going to take it into downward dog from there. So have the hands a little forward or the feet a little further back if you've got your hands on the seat of the chair, and send the hips up and back. And let's feel a little stretch through the backs of the legs here. So you might notice a little tightness in the calves, so feel free to pedal your feet. As you bend one knee, let the other heel stretch back and down. Continuing that with movement, or feeling free to pause and enjoy the stretch on each side. Nice. And downward dog at the chair looks quite similar, but the heels will just be probably more all the way to the floor, right under the hips. Let's feel another full breath in downward dog here. Let the head feel like it's reaching more towards the hands as the hips lift up and back. And then let's slowly start to walk our feet forward to the hands or hands back to the feet, any combination of that. Yep. And then let the upper body release as far over the legs as feels comfortable. You're welcome to just jangle the arms or keep the hands on support as you like. Good. Let's feel another breath here. Can we let the head grow a little heavier? Chin maybe moving more towards the chest. All right. And then we'll take our time rolling it up, pressing into your feet. Take your time to lift the spine from bottom to top so that your head lifts last. Great. Let's stand in mountain. Feel the support of your feet. And just, play around with their position, right? So you might take a look, have your feet about hip distance apart, maybe a little wider, maybe a little narrower. Feels more stable for you. And then try to get a sense of each end of your spine. So let your tailbone feel like it's heavier towards the floor, down towards your heels. You can feel just a brief or a little sense of lift up through the front of your pelvis, pubic bone light, along with the head. So can you feel pubic bone lifting upwards a little as your head, the crown of it is reaching towards the ceiling above you. The tail stays heavy, reaching to the floor. Nice. And then let's move just the arms. Let's inhale the arms, lifting up, looking up. That's it. And then with the exhale, bring the arms back down and look down. So let's just inhale, lift the arms, looking up. Exhale wide with the arms, looking down. One more like that. So you might notice a little more stretch coming into your back when you lift your arms. Now, if you want to add on lifting up onto your toes when you lift your arms, go for it, a little challenge in the balance. And then you can lift and spread your toes maybe as your arms come down. So rising up onto your toes, heels lifting, lowering the heels as you lower the arms, toes lifting. Really good. And then one more of those. All right, coming back down to center. Let's bring the feet maybe a little wider apart, so at least shoulder width apart, I'd suggest. And we can soften slightly through the knees. Let's just do a little hip circle. So if we just start to push the hips to the side, one side and then the other. And as we do this, can you keep pubic bone and navel facing forward? So it's kind of like our tail is just sort of drawing a line. If we had a laser pointer on our tailbone, on the floor between our feet, over towards one foot, over towards the other. Yeah. So a little hip sway. And then let's turn this hip sway into more of a circle. So you might start with the circle quite small, right? So noticing the direction you're going in, maybe labeling it to the right or clockwise or whatever it happens to be. And, if a small circle is feeling good, trying your best to keep pubic bone and navel facing forward so it's not so much of like a twisty move. It's more hips, drawing that circle. And again, it's now like the tailbone has that laser pointer drawing a circle kind of around the feet. Depending on the size of the movement. So you can make this as large as you like. I find the larger I go, the more I want to kind of bend the knees. Yeah. Let the movement be comfortable as it travels through the hips and feeling the support into the feet. Okay, let's go circling the other way. So again, you might start small. How does the second direction feel? Usually it's not quite as smooth. Maybe it feels a little more awkward. Yeah. And, checking in. How does each hip feel? What range of movement feels good through the hips? Because we're moving right here where our pelvis sits on our leg bones. And of course, we're finding movement in our ankles too. But yeah, this is where we're trying to initiate the movement from. So stay small or explore slightly larger movement. All the while, feeling the breath. Good. Okay, and then coming on back to center. Great. Let's start with the feet about hip distance apart. You can always go wider or narrower, so that's sort of the ballpark. And then let's step the right foot forward. So right foot is forward, left foot is back. And if you want a longer stance between your front and back foot, then just make it longer. But what's going to happen, we're going to try to keep our back leg straight, push down into that back heel while you let your front knee bend and straighten. So let's just find some of that movement. Moving gently through the joints of our front leg. And we might notice as you bend your front knee, perhaps a little more stretch comes into this hip, the left one, especially as you keep pushing back through the thigh and down through that heel, rather than letting your whole leg kind of come with you like this. Okay, so push back through the back leg as you let the front knee bend. Yeah, and feel that difference when you stay with that active push through your back leg. So then let's keep the front knee bent, back leg strong and straight, pushing down into that back heel. And again, you decide how big your stance is. The bigger it is, the more likely you are to feel it in your low back. And if it's uncomfortable, just shorten your stance. Okay. So from here, let's bring our arms up overhead. So I'm going to do it this way so you can see maybe a little better. We're going to take the elbows wide, hands facing forward. And then inhale, stretch the arms up overhead just as far as feels comfortable. And then exhale, pull the elbows down. Sort of feel like your shoulder blades are hugging in towards each other a bit as you do that. That's it. Feel one more. Let the inhale come. And let the exhale pull elbows back and down. And then let's inhale, stretch the arms up, pause here. Maybe you send a little lift through hugging up and in through the belly a little more. Really nice. And then let's release the arms and step. Step back foot forward or back foot back. Back foot forward, front foot back. Step together. Shake it out, check in. How does each leg feel? How does your lower back feel? So let's actually do a little release for the lower back. You can let the feet come maybe a little wider apart for this one. Yeah, so instead of the feet being right underneath you, bring them a little wider. And then slide the hands down the legs and find a nice release through the back. Of course, you're welcome to keep the knees as bent as you like. Hands can be anywhere on the legs or the floor or support in front of you. Good. Follow another full breath here. And then walk the hands back up the legs, pressing into your feet as you come on upright again. And bring the legs, feet about hip distance apart again. So we can step our left foot forward, right foot back. Okay. And as you're standing like that, again, make sure your back foot is still facing forward rather than turned out to the side. So you want everything facing the front. So let's be strong in our back leg. Press down through that heel. Push back a little through the right thigh. And just start to let that front knee straighten and bend. As the front knee bends, can you feel like a bit of a bow and arrow move, right? Front knee bends, but right heel, right thigh are reaching back a little more. Yeah. Nice. You might feel a little more space coming into the front of that right hip now. Excellent. Now let's keep the front knee bent. Back leg strong and straight. That's it. Finding again a little support up and in through the belly. Let's bring our arms as overhead as they can go. So if in front of your head feels better, that's perfectly good. Feel the inhale. As you exhale, let the elbows bend, pointing or pulling them back as they bend, and shoulder blades down the back. So let the inhale send you some length up. Exhale, elbows back and down. Nice. Each exhale, can you feel how the belly gently hugs in and up, keeping your lower back long and happy? Great. Last one. And then let's inhale, let the arms float up as high as feels comfortable, maybe lifting the gaze slightly and sensing a couple breaths here into the whole circumference of the ribs. Really nice. Okay, bring the arms down, step the feet together. Okay, nice. So let's bring the feet maybe a little wider apart than you had it last time. You can go even a little wider with the feet. So find that width that feels comfortable and stable, where you feel supported through your feet, baby toe sides of the feet just as much as your big toe sides. Soften a little through the knees. Feel free to have support in front of you, whether it's a chair or a table or stool or a couple blocks. And you can just slide the hands down the legs, keeping the hands on the legs or taking the hands onto support in front of you, or even forearms on thighs. The idea is to find a bit of a release through your back while you comfortably stretch through your thighs. You might feel this one more through inner thighs with the legs a little wider, as well as the backs of the thighs. So let's breathe into where we sense these movements, these stretches here. Great. Follow one more cycle of breath. Okay. And then once again, press into your feet. You might soften a bit more through the knees, letting them bend so you can push more through the feet coming up. Hands can walk up the legs, taking you back up to standing, and then walk the feet together. So this heel-toe movement is really great for the hips too. Inward rotation, outward rotation. To bring the feet together. Nice. Okay. Now let's make our way down onto our belly. You can also just kind of come down and walk yourself forward down onto your belly. Yeah. So with this, a pillow under the head may be appreciated. Having a little something to bring the ground a little higher to rest your forehead onto more comfortably. And just take a bit of time to let the front of your body rest into the ground. And when you're on your belly, if you notice a lot of, discomfort in your low back, another trick is to bring a thin pillow, so like a rolled up blanket or folded blanket. It works really well for this, to come kind of under belly, front, hips area. So when you have support under your belly, it gives you a little more length into your lower back, which might feel more comfortable. Okay. So feel as you rest, feel the tops of your feet on the ground. Your feet can be somewhere around hip to shoulder distance apart, toes pointing back. Feel your knees pointing down to the floor, fronts of your thighs on the mat. How does your belly, chest land? Make any adjustments you need to be comfortable here. And try to sense how the breath moves in your back with each inhale and with each exhale.
When we're on our belly, it's our lower back that kind of rises and falls with each breath. You might be able to sense that as you breathe. Okay. Now, can we take our arms out like a V shape, like a T shape is what I mean. Arms wide out to the sides. We can let the palms face down. And just start. What happens when we push more weight into the tops of the feet and press down through the pubic bone? Our knees might end up lifting away from the ground, legs getting a little stronger with that. Maybe a bit of a squeeze comes through the glutes to try to keep tailbone reaching back towards the feet as you feel the crown of your head reaching forward. Let's lift both arms away from the floor, but as they lift, feel like they're reaching out to touch the sides of the room. This may be enough right here, or you can try sending your head and your chest away from the floor. This is going to definitely strengthen into your back. Be where you can be with breath, with the tops of the feet still pushing into the mat. That's it. Really nice. And then take it down. You can relax the arms in any other position that feels good. You might bring your feet in the air, bend the knees, and do a little sway of your feet side to side, kind of like a feet windshield wiper. And that will roll your weight across the front of the pelvis, loosening into hips and low back here. Wonderful. Let's go for one more variation. Tops of the feet back to the ground. Let's take the arms along our sides this time. Let the palms face up with the arms along your sides. Now, can you press again into the tops of the feet? Push down through the pubic bone. Feel head and tailbone reaching away from each other as you imagine someone's pulling on your arms back, and then they're going to lift about parallel to the floor. Fronts of your shoulders are lifting away from the ground as much as your hands are. Yeah. And then keeping that, staying as you are with your head down or letting your head come away from the ground, finding more strength into your back. Find where you can be with your breath here. Wonderful, everybody. All right, and then let it go. Rest the hands in any way that makes sense, feels comfortable. And feel free to explore again a few of those feet windshield wipers, knees bent, feet in the air, side to side. And then use your hands or forearms to push yourself back. You can come into a child's pose after that if that feels good. Or come to sitting, which is where we're going to next. All right, when you're ready for it, come on up into, let's go into a simple cross-legged sit. So you might sit up on a pillow or a cushion or a folded blanket, as I've got under me. And as you sit up on a little bit of that support, if cross-legged doesn't feel comfortable for you, then find the position in the legs that feels better. You could have both legs stretched out, a little bit like a V, soles of the feet together, if either of those options feel better. And yeah, if you're sitting on support, just make sure it's really just the bum that's on the support, not a whole lot of the thighs. And that'll help tip your pelvis a little bit forward so we can lengthen more through the lower back. Let's take a moment here and just feel the spine's length through the center. You know, you might shift and wiggle and sense how your sitting bones land into the support under you. And let's take a moment, bring the hands. Let's bring right hand to the belly, left hand to the chest, and
just sense the breath for a couple cycles, moving through your hands. You might notice one hand moving a little more than the other. Sense that for yourself with each inhale and with each exhale. And then I'll invite you to take this into a twist to the right. So as you next exhale, let the exhale kind of hug up and in through the belly to help you turn to the right. So ribs turn, chest turns to the right. We can take our right hand eventually to the floor beside or behind our hip, and the left hand might land on that opposite leg or same leg, really. Doesn't matter which is more comfortable. See if you can settle the shoulders away from the ears. And as you're here in the twist, still feel how the breath moves you. Breathing in, what softens, what expands. And breathing out, maybe find what supports you a little more. Hugging in and up through the belly, letting go of all the breath, narrowing through the ribs. Okay, and then as you breathe in, let's come back to center. Whew, and just wiggle as you need to through your back. And then let's go a little to the left. So let's lean into the left hand and feel like both shoulders, upper back, even the head, is against a wall that's behind you. And then you're welcome to send this right arm to stretch a little further. Just enough to open up a little more through this right side for a couple breaths. That's it. Make room for the inhale. Feel how the exhale might take you into it a tiny bit more, but just as important, ease away a little on the inhale. That's it. Backing it up a bit. All right, let's breathe it in. Come on back through center. Sitting tall once again. If you're in a sort of semi-symmetrical position like cross-legged, you might try with your other leg crossed in front. See how that feels. See if you can get that as comfortable as you can. Okay. And then once again, find and feel like your back ribs maybe rest back towards the wall behind you just as much as your upper back and head. And then let's let left hand rest on belly, right hand on chest, and just sense a few breaths here through each hand. Belly and chest moving however much, however little as you breathe. And then we can explore the twist to the left. On your next exhale, find a little hug in and up through the belly, turning your spine to the left, hand coming to the floor behind or beside you, right hand on either of your legs, and then landing into this twist. We can ease up, find the inhale coming in, create some space for it. On the exhale, we might find a little more of that support again, in and up through the belly, perhaps taking us into the twist a tiny bit more without any push or force. All right, when you're ready, inhale it back to center. Whew, wiggle as you need to, and then we'll take it over to the right. So right hand comes to the ground. Just notice if you've kind of jammed your shoulder up as you've done that. So you might just, see if you can keep the shoulders away from the ears. Feel that support in your back to keep the neck long, chest wide. And then send the left arm to lift up and away from that left hip that's still resting into the floor. What feels good for you on this side? And let yourself ease up on the inhale And then maybe go back into it a little more on the exhale. Lovely. And then we'll bring it on back upright. You can lean back into your hands, give the legs a little shake, stretch them out in front. And then what might feel good after that is a bit of a symmetrical forward bend to help release the back, so you can have both legs straight in front or the soles of the feet together. So you decide what feels best right now in your hips, in your lower back, in your legs. So when you're coming forward, just feel like you're first lifting up over your pubic bone, like a string is connected to your navel, sort of lifting you up and over towards your feet, and then allowing your back to find a gentle, rounded arch as evenly as you can find it, from your low back, through your mid back, through your upper back, and head and neck. Now let the breath move into that space you feel through your back body, back ribs, and trying your best to feel your belly stay responsive to the breath, softening with the inhale and gently supporting as you exhale. Okay, and then when you're ready, take your time to slowly stack the spine again to sitting tall. You can guide the knees together, give them again a little shake out in front. So little knee bounces might feel good, maybe some wagging of the feet a little side to side. So all these things just help to relax and loosen through the hips, the knees, even the ankles. Yeah. And then we can come back onto the back and take a few moments there just to end the practice comfortably again. So feel free to gather supports, pillow under the head or under the legs. Shift and wiggle into the support of the ground through the back. Back pelvis wide and rested. Upper back, back ribs landing into the floor. Taking your time to find where your shoulders rest, how your arms can land to help relax your shoulders. Letting go of the full weight of your head in the center, chin growing a little heavier to maintain length through the back of your neck. And as you close your eyes here, once again, just soften your gaze. Feel your whole face relax, letting go of any facial tension through the jaw, relaxing the cheeks, eyes settling deeper into their sockets. And just noticing how your body lands into this position here at the end of your practice. And staying in tune with each breath, allowing the breath to flow easily and effortlessly through your body as you follow the movements within. That's it. Just keep coming back to sense each breath coming and going, rising and falling, as you give yourself permission to rest. by little, come back to feel your whole body resting here. And feel your relationship with the floor through the back. And start to gradually deepen your inhales. And feel free to sigh out the exhales again through the mouth. Yeah, bring a little movement into fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Maybe rolling the head a little again, side to side. And feeling free to enjoy any further stretch or movement your body's called to before you come over onto your side again. Yeah, we can make our way into any comfortable seated position. And just check in, find a nice easy posture, noticing how you're feeling after your practice. And giving thanks, taking a moment to give thanks for taking the time to be here with your body and your breath. I thank you for joining me today.